Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the King of Average podcast. And I'm here with
Melik and
it's your boy BB.
dude, that was so cute, dude. God, that was just adorable. And what are we talking about today?
Honestly, I'm just waiting until the day comes where an episode starts and we surprise them with a complete new co-host because I decided to kick you out.
Yep, you finally had enough of me.
Yeah, finally. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Which leads us to
Today's conversation.
Yep, which is going to be what makes a man, part 5. All right.
Part five in the series of the conversation. What makes a man? How can a person prepare themselves?
Exactly.
With the ideal characteristics in order that they can just be a better person, whether that's, a child, a brother, sister, a sibling, a mother, father, a spouse, whatever the case is. And the quality that we want to talk about today is the sense of control, the idea of control. We think this is a huge factor that everybody should develop, and definitely is an important factor in the conversation about what makes a man.
Boom. So one of the things that we have written down to control, or that we in a way have control over, because we both are fully aware, right, that there's two things in life. You got the uncontrollables, things that you cannot control,
usually external factors,
and you also got the controllables. Now the controllables could be what we're going to be talking about right now is 5 things, and it could be more, of course, but let's just focus on these 5 things. So the first one we want to bring up is going to be tongue. Control what you have to say. Now, it's easier said than done. In the heat of the moment, when you want to mouth off, when you want to get your point across, when you feel disrespected or whatever it may be, and you want to generally speak your mind, but speaking your mind at that moment with your emotions being at 10, think about it. Could you have properly said something at the heat of the moment, looking back at it when you calm down? The best thing to do is take a step back. Try to control yourself, man. Because what it is I get the whole thing of the sticks and stones, right? Might break my bones, but the whole words hurt. But words will be able to, they linger. If you hit a person, which we obviously do not recommend, and we're both not really physical guys to begin with, if you cuss someone out, man, they'll remember that for the rest of their lives. Even if it's a parent, if it's your sibling, if it's et cetera, significant other, they will remember what you said. They will for sure. And at the end of the day, once the emotions went away and it's been already a day or a week or a month or a year or whatever, both of y'all completely moved on from it. Looking back at it, you will regret that moment.
Yeah, I think that's a huge. A couple of things that came to mind when we were talking about it was one, that obviously the sense of regret. The sense of regret, it makes you feel so dumb when you take a moment to think about it later on. Usually it doesn't even it's not even like a later on type of thing. Usually it's immediately, almost a few seconds after, and that moment of regret, you don't know what kind of damage you could have done because you weren't able to control your tongue. And it really makes me think to one of the hadith where the Rasul was explaining that there are specific things that will cause a person to go to hell, right? One of them being their genitals, basically they're not, they don't, follow certain, values and whatnot. They're kind of careless. They let their desires get to them and whatnot.
They belong to the streets.
But another thing that will cause a person to enter hellfire, or cause a lot of people to enter hellfire, is their tongue and the lack of control with their tongue. And it goes to it's kind of a conversation where it's you don't know what you could be saying that could be, as a form of disobedience to God, but it's also, dude, you don't know what you could be saying to other people around you that could affect them so deeply, that could really hurt them, to where on the day of judgment, they will not let that go. They cannot wait till the day of judgment comes around until they complain to God and they say, this person hurt me with their words. This is what they said to me.
Yep.
Right. And it's so funny because, we talk about saying things to people that are hurtful in their face. Most of the people don't even have the guts to do it. What do you think the difference is between someone who says it to your face and someone behind a screen? It's still a form of controlling your tongue, because doing it behind a screen, which is the most common way that people bully nowadays, right? Saying it behind a screen because they think I'm hidden from any, what's the word? Being held accountable. I'm hidden from any accountability. No, you're not, dude. That is still something that you decide to let fly, that you do not have control of, that is now affecting people. And it's really sad because, dude, you can legit use your words in a way that could cause somebody to completely just decide, yo, I'm gonna kill myself. And imagine how, like, if that's not just like as an idea, if that's not destructive on its own, if that doesn't burn in your head the guilt that you can possibly do that to someone to help you control yourself, I don't know what will. It's deep. It's scary.
So another thing too is, say if you're speaking out loud and you're speaking to that person, whether it's a friend or whatever it is, and you're speaking your mind. How about all the other people that it's not like basically directed to, but they're listening in on the conversation? Now we're all talking about, things that we're talking about to each other,
Hmm.
right? But how about the judgments? How about everything else that other people around us are going to be listening to, and they're going to form against you,
Hmm.
right? This person's cussing way too much. This person's of like basically low. You're basically damaging your status of people without even talking to them. You're cussing. You're bad mouthing other people. Now, when I was in college, I remember I took that interview class, right? And one of the main things that I remember from that class was, once you move on from your company and they ask you, why did you quit? Why do you want to quit in order to move on to this position with our company? Say it's a different company. And the second you start bad mouthing the company that you currently work with or you worked with, that's an immediate red flag to people. Simply because their mind thought goes into, if this person talks so much crap about the person that they're currently working with or worked with, imagine what they're going to say about us. So it's the whole ripple effect, man. If you want to go ahead and you speak your mind, you know what? There is some power of speaking your mind. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot more power of being more precise with what you say. It's not making you less of a person, less of a man, less of a woman, less of whatever it is, less of a leader. But at the end of the day, it's I feel like what makes a very powerful, effective leader is the ability to project a message. If people are able to hear out what you have to say and implement it almost immediately, then, hey, in my personal opinion, that's a great leader. That's a great mother. That's a great father. That's a great manager. That's a great CEO. Just by the way you word things. So having a sense of control over your tongue is just so important. Now, we always say this. I mean, when I was young, my mom used to bring out the soap. Legit, I got soap in my freaking mouth, right? For saying something bad or acting out or whatever it is. Either that or spicy food. Ironically enough, I freaking love soap. No, I was kidding. Ironically enough, I love spicy food, right? So, you know, it was more joy than it was like a punishment. But nonetheless, the second thing that we want to talk about over the sense of control is having control over your emotions.
Yeah, it all ties in, but having control of your emotions it's a key factor because it definitely, this one, I think, over a lot of them takes practice, because your emotions are something that, in a sense, you really can't control. What you can do, though, is you can recognize when you're having a certain emotion. And from there, the actions that precede that emotion, which you do choose, you do have control over, they could either reflect or they can completely shift how you emotionally feel towards a situation. And having control over your emotions, I think, is such a huge component in the idea of you're really just having power over yourself and other people. Being able to control your emotions, being able to even shift your emotions. I think what's really powerful is, like, they talk about, I don't know who they are, but they talk about it. They talk about this idea where it's like, sometimes when you're feeling sad, like, typically it's for no good reason. Like, there is nothing solid to justify it. Typically, if it is, you're kind of like reaching out to find things to be sad for. And I think there was, like, I don't know if it was like this research done, or it's like one of those things that motivational speakers will like use at different seminars, where it's literally just the power of how you can shift your emotions in a moment's notice by simply smiling. And catch yourself when you are in that moment where you feel you're sad, but you can't really pinpoint a reason why. Be weird about it. It's going to feel a little bit cringe, but just crack a smile. and you will immediately notice how you're able to shift your own emotions and have control over your own emotions without doing almost anything at all.
Now, when you talk about smiling, having that positive attitude, of course, is the whole positive attitude speech of yes, you should do it and everything else. But having a smile from a third person's perspective is very, very important. Now, when I'm working at the farmers markets, I'm always having either customers or other vendors always come up to me like, Malik, I love your attitude, man. You are never sad. You are never mad. You're just always happy. You're always in a good mood. I'm like, how can you tell? You're always smiling, man. Even though, let's be honest, man, there were many times where I was at work or I wasn't feeling the best. I was feeling kind of sick. I was feeling kind of sad. I was feeling kind of tired. But since I had that smile on my face, it pushed me through, and a lot of people noticed. So that was a great way to I guess link it to controlling your emotions, where if I was to be in a bad mood and I'd let it show, then all of my actions, all of the people that I come in contact with, they would automatically get that message from me, and they wouldn't want to be around. You don't want to be around negative. No one wants to be around that Debbie Downer, that person that's, oh, like we're having so much fun. Yeah, but it's so cold outside. Or yeah, but the coffee wasn't good. And yeah, but man, why? No one wants to be around that. So put a smile on your face, whether it's genuine or, hey, I hate to say it, whether it's fake, do it. That will have a positive effect, because once you get in the habit of doing that, then eventually that will have a positive effect, because when that person comes up to you and be like, Malik, you're always in a good mood, even though at that moment you're not, guess what? You will be in a good mood after that.
I think that's super powerful. One thing I wanted to mention, and you brought up such a perfect example for it, I think it's really interesting how, I want to say people in general, but especially as men, we really do have the ability to not just control our emotions, but through our emotional control, we're even able to control the emotions of those around us. And it's something that I learned from a situation at home. Not to go into too much detail about it, but it was basically a situation where, like, my dad did something, and all of a sudden, it was like the entire atmosphere of the home brightened. And it made me take a step back and realize, like, we were able to kind of, as a unit, as a family, completely shift how we all feel just because of this energy that my dad brought into the picture. And even if it was for a moment, that moment had so much power. And there was so many other situations after that where I recognized that even my energy as an employee, even my energy as, whatever, like, let's just say a team leader in a sport, not in a sport, whatever the case is, even the energy that I bring sometimes to the homie group. The moment I come in and I'm carrying this face, this like resting bee face, or like I just look upset, or like I just come in with this bad energy, this bad aura, immediately all of the homies are like, hey, yo, what's up with you right now, bro? Like you're just completely off, But the moment I come in with like this super hyped energy, all of a sudden it taps into everybody else. And as a unit, we all just get into this vibe, right? And this obviously connects back to the whole idea of, like, imagine how much power you have as a husband, as a father, when you're able to control the emotions of the family simply by just putting out good emotions. Simply by putting out some positive energy, you're able to uplift your entire family. And this is why it's important, this idea of controlling your emotions. Because like I said in the beginning, emotions, they naturally occur. They're very similar to judgments. You can't control how you feel towards situations. But what you can do is you can, even for a second, ignore that emotion and then tell yourself, hey, what I'm about to do next is not based on how I feel, but for the greater good. And then from there, watch how much can be achieved. Not just by you, but also by those around you.
Another thing that you brought up too is that, especially with you, it's you always bring that energy. So people are accustomed to you bringing that energy. So whenever you're in a different mood, right, which for the most part, it's kind of rare, because it's either you do a great job of not showing it, or you're just always jolly.
Right.
Okay. You know what I'm saying? But when something is off, everyone could tell.
Yeah.
And B is one of those guys where it's like, since he's always high energy, people generally like to be around you until it gets really annoying, and then you're like, dude, this guy doesn't stop.
Yeah, I could take it there for sure.
But
I think I like taking it there.
yeah, because you're just a troll, man. You're just a troll. And whatever, going back to it being serious, is you're known for being the person that's always positive. You're known of having that. You are able to have that effect on other people where they're like, man, if I want to have a good time, if I want to be happy, if I want to be whatever it is, let me be around BB. Let me ask you questions. Let me know more about you. You attract people based on your actions. You attract people based on your emotions, about your tongue, about whatever it is, right? But what you have to say, right? But what a beautiful way to be known by something positive, whatever it is, right? So I wanted to say that, and that's just in general. It's like,
Appreciate you, big dog.
if you're gonna be known for something, be known for something positive.
Yeah, I think it's funny. It's always honorable too, because let's say like you witness a tense situation happen between your buddy, your parent, your brother, your sister, whatever, between them and like a stranger, right? Let's say, for example, it happens in a parking lot, because for some reason a lot of fights go down in a parking lot, and you know that whatever the stranger did to your buddy in this example, whatever that stranger did to them, you know it's burning them on the inside, and you expected them to have a certain reaction that's completely based off of their emotion. But you witness them in that moment, in that tense moment, you witness them control their emotion, and instead put out a different energy, put out a different reaction. It brings so much honor to that person in your eyes. It makes you think, wow, holy smokes, the way they were able to just control themselves in that moment and make better of the situation. It honestly, from 9 out of 10 times, it kind of almost puts you in your place.
And it makes the other person that's coming with you, like coming at you with aggression, it really just showcases them.
Right.
Like all the freaking lights are directed on them, the spotlight on them, of how stupid they are.
Yeah.
How foolish they are.
They're exposed.
Because the other person, you can't go back and forth. If the other person's very reserved, the other person's overreacting and wow, there's only one person that's standing out there, as opposed to both people going at it, where both people are, they're at fault. But if one person's reserved and the other person's like, wow, super emotional and going crazy, I don't care who's around. They'd be like, that guy's tripping.
Yeah. They're just a crazy man.
Yeah.
I think that transitions really well into the idea of having control over your ego.
Number 3.
It's a good transition because your ego, I think, is even stronger than your emotion, especially for us being prideful Arabs. We don't have the sense of, alhamdulillah, we don't have the sense of ego that like kind of, strings from arrogance.
Yeah, like we're better than you and whatever.
Yeah, no,
not at all.
Not at all. I know I'm trash. Anyways, but
I know that, dude. Support you.
Thanks for the affirmation. But we definitely do have a strong sense of pride, and it's in good things for the most part, but it's pride in our faith, pride in our beliefs, and pride in usually in our nationalities as well. But usually with nationality, honestly, if you insult my nationality, I kind of won't give a crap, like it's not going to bother me that much, because it's like, nationality compared to like faith and religion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know what I mean? There's almost no comparison in terms of like what you should be prideful more over. But your sense of ego, when somebody does come around to intentionally insult you, when somebody does come around to intentionally put you down, when a situation happens where you feel subpar than what you are, and all of a sudden you feel that sense of, no, but I need to prove myself. It's actually one of the 3 basic psychological needs. It's the need for competence, the basic psychological need for competence, for something to, give you the satisfaction of knowing you're good enough. A lot of things challenge our ego nowadays. This person has a cooler car. This person dresses better. This person lifts more. This person's more buff, whatever. This person's taller. This person's this, right? So many things challenge our ego. And the fact of the matter is if in any situation you decide to invest in chasing your ego, you're going to go down a rabbit hole so far and so unfulfilling that you will realize that later on that you've just wasted a bunch of time and energy over something that most people are not even paying attention to.
Yeah. So superficial.
So having control over your ego, having control over when the thought comes of like, dang, if only I was like just 2 to 3 inches taller. Dang, if only I had this much more money in my bank account. When those thoughts come to your head, because they do, it's very natural. It happens to all of us. We live in a society where everybody puts their lives online, right? So we naturally become comparative. We naturally look at what we don't have because of what somebody else has. And so these thoughts are naturally going to come to our heads, but we need to know how to control our ego and put it aside in order that we never lose focus and we never lose sight of what's important in life. Because once again, connecting it back to a situation of, let's say you're a father, let's say you're trying, whatever the case is, let's say you're a father, right? If there's ever a moment, actually, you know what's a great example I can think of? Imagine you're a father and
the situation didn't change, by the way. You said, imagine you're a father 3 times.
no, but
You just kept on saying, imagine you're a father.
did I say it 3 times?
Yeah, you actually did.
Imagine you're a father.
Yeah, why not? One more for the vibe.
And you see your kids becoming more successful than you at something.
I'd be happy.
Shouldn't you? But if you have no control over your ego, what are you going to do? You're going to trash on them. Yeah. And then even if you're garbage enough, you're going to actually prey on their downfall. So if you have no control over your own ego, all you're going to do is, once again, pull yourself down a crazy rabbit hole, and then you're going to bring others down with you.
So we currently live in a very competitive environment, competitive society. And whether it's from culture to culture, whether it's from socioeconomic, from what's in your bank account to how big your house is.
Imagine you're a father.
Shake my hand, bro. That was good. That was
podcast is lost.
Yeah, bro. Bro, control your tongue, dog. That's number 1. But
competitive society.
We live in a very competitive society where a lot of times you're constantly being compared. A lot of times you're comparing yourself to other people. And with that, your ego is just going to keep on getting hurt
and tested.
It's going to get tested over and over and over and over again. At 28, you're looking at TikToks of like some 19-year-old be like, hey, I'm 19-year-old right now. And, I went ahead and I purchased my, 100th rental property. And this is how you do it. You know what I'm saying? Or then the other one's like, oh, I just drop shipped and I'm making $200 billion a second. Dude, okay, cool. That's great for you if that's actually the truth. But for the most part, you're constantly getting tested, right? Now, if you have control over your ego, you don't have to lose yourself. You don't have to. The second you start feeling like, oh, shoot, like that guy is doing pretty well, but what's up with me? You hold yourself accountable. You hold yourself back and go, whoa, like, okay, why did I feel like this? And then from there, if you're able to recognize your emotions, then from there, you can then better direct yourself. So holding firm on or controlling your ego in general, having a firm belief in yourself, confidence, respect, that's going to pay a lot of dividends in the future. So that way, if you are ever tested, whether it's the heat of the moment or it's just some tacky YouTube video or whatever it is, you're able to then better control yourself. And this is a great transition, in my opinion, to the fourth thing that we want to talk about is having control over your thoughts, right? Because the second those things of, right, going exactly what I was saying, the 19-year-old with 100 and no car, whatever it is, rental properties, whatever it is, that thought of you're not good enough, that thought of you're not doing better, the thought of who is he? Yeah, he's, you're 9 years older than him. Those stupid thoughts that come into your mind that pay no dividends. Those absolutely don't, in my opinion, don't have no benefit to you, because guess what? You're going to continue scrolling. And the next day, you're going to continue scrolling. And the next day, what I'm trying to say, the only action that you're taking from it is only scrolling deeper, digging yourself deeper in that rabbit hole. Okay? You're going to compare yourself to other people. Okay. But if you're going to do it, do something about it. Don't let it completely control your life to the point or you don't do anything about it. And then guess what you do at the end? Because you failed, you complain. You're going to complain about everything. This person had a better environment than me. This person had better parents. This person had better an opportunity. This person had whatever it is. You're going to start coming up with excuses for your failures, for your lack of control. Control your thoughts. The second they come, right, try to filter it out.
You got to know how to divert them.
You have a file cabinet, right? You have all these thoughts that come in, and just the irrelevant ones, dude, just put it over there. Whatever it is. The relevant ones, the one that you actually need to fire you, to get that fire going in you. Hold on to that, right? Focus on those. The other ones, dude, take it out of that cabinet and put it inside the shredder. Just throw it away in the trash where it really belongs, because that's not going to pay any dividends at the long run or in the long run.
I actually like the file cabinet example a lot, because it made me imagine going through mail. You know, you get your mail maybe every couple of days. You know, you finally go through the mailbox and look through them and whatnot. And you have like a bunch of stuff coming in, and like 8 of them are like from Sirius XM.
Oh my God.
But yeah, you go through your mail and you start looking at what's important and what's not important. And immediately the stuff that's not important, like the flipping, you know, the Stater Bros deals, or like, oh, you know, cash this check of a loan of $50,000. You immediately just tear those things up and put them in the trash. I was gonna say Del Taco coupons, but we keep.
No. I legit would have checked you on that.
You know, we keep those. We don't throw those away.
Shout out Del Taco.
Wiener Schnitzel though, maybe we just toss.
No, we toss.
No,
Yeah, we toss those.
Doesn't
Arby's.
Arby's is a huge maybe.
Yeah,
Huge
it's maybe
on that.
depending on what they have.
You know, they got the meats.
Damn it, BB.
But yeah, no, that's actually a very, very important point, because once again, thoughts is not something you can control per se. But what you can do is not allow yourself to dive deep into the negative ones. Because negative thoughts, when they come around, oh my God, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, they do.
Yep.
When they come around, sometimes they could literally put you in this trance where if somebody doesn't snap you out of it, it's almost like you've been hypnotized, because you literally sit there and you dwell and you dwell and you dwell, almost as if like you're sinking into your chair and your shoulders and your neck starts dropping, and you like your shoulders are rounding over, and then it completely shifts. Once again, it shifts your emotions on how you feel in that moment. And when you let those negative thoughts take control over you and you just dwell hard on them, it's going to completely stop you from what it is you need to take care of. And, you know, we talk about accountability. We talk about discipline. We talk about having focus. The reality of the situation is the only thing that stops most people from being able to commit absolutely anything throughout their day that they need to get done, more often than not, it's their thoughts. It's their thoughts, because it triggers it can completely not just control your mind, it can control your body at that point, where from your thoughts alone, you can start making the decision of, I don't even want to do anything today. Why? Because I'm not good enough. Because what's this even going to achieve? This is not even making me money right now. Blah, 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 blah. The same thing, like you said, excuse 1, excuse 2, justification. And next thing you know, you're just going to absolutely just sink into this bottomless pit. And without having control over those negative thoughts, or like you said, curving them the moment they get there, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything at all.
Yep.
That's a strong one.
That was.
Indeed.
And then moving on to the last one, the 5 that we talked about, or that we're going to talk about, is going to be judgments.
I feel like I've repeated this for like the majority of them, and it's just a reality, you know, before somebody comes and says, oh, you can't control your judgments, they're natural. Yes, you can't control your judgments, they're natural. But you know what you can do? You can control the actions in which you do that are based off those judgments, right? The actions that you implement based off of your judgment, they speak heavy about who you are as a person, what your character is like.
I mean, you brought up that story of when you were when you were a personal trainer at 24, right? And after that meeting that they had, that your manager had with whoever gets the first sign up or workout session with a random gym goer, then they're able to get some sort of benefit from it. You looked at that client, and in a sales position, you make judgments all day. All day. This person's, no, they're not going to. They're too young. Oh, they're too old. Oh, they're this. Oh, they're that. They're too fit. They know what they're doing. Whatever it is. If you made that judgment of, nah,
Yeah, that first guy looked way too intense.
whatever it is,
He's gonna say no.
I'm not gonna go up to him. No, no, no. I'll go up to the other person that's less intimidating. Then you would not have the mentor who you have today. That's based off a single judgment.
Yeah.
That was a split second, whether it was go or just stay.
Yeah.
Right. So that is just I feel like
It is a very good example of just having control over your judgments
yeah.
and not letting them control you.
And an important thing about this whole thing, and it just kind of clicked to me, is we're talking about the 5 things. And so far, just a recap of the 5 things is we talked about sense of controlling your tongue, emotions, ego, thoughts, and judgments. Now, one thing that all clicked in was all these have an effect on the others. If your thoughts are messed up, that's going to affect your ego. And then that's going to affect your emotions. And then that's eventually going to affect your tongue and then the judgments that you have upon others. And then vice versa. You can mix up the whole thing. If your ego, then your emotions, then your judgments, and then your ego is going to go into it because you think that you're better than them or they're better than you. And then you're going to start bad mouthing them or these all, and this is all over control.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there are going to be some more things. These are just situational, but we're bringing up these 5 things, but these are so important in a person's life to take note of, right? Guys, if you guys are listening, really think about what we're having to say because we're both thinking about what these 5 things are and how significant they are
in everyday life.
But not many people are talking about this, right? So many people are talking about, killer mindset, positive mindset, this, open up an LLC, right? If you're a father. But the 5 things is you have to work on yourself. In order to be great, that comes from within, man. You start working on what you have to say, working on what affects you, working on your ego, working on your thoughts, working on your judgment process. Is this a good investment? Is it not? Should I trust this person? Should I not? Whatever it is, these are all going to be benefiting you to it.
Yeah, and to finalize kind of on that last one, judgments, there's a couple of points I wanted to bring up specifically. One of them was basically just we've all been in those situations in life where we've just met someone and we misjudged them heavily, right? Whether that's good or bad, whether you decided in the beginning, hey, yo, this seems like a really, really cool person, come to find out later they're a piece of crap. Or, this is the fun part, you meet someone, you're like, I don't know about this person, but turns out they become one of the closest of your social circle. They become some of the coolest people in your lives. And it was completely a misjudgment in the beginning, right? We've all had that kind of a situation. Another situation that I wanted to reflect on that I think is hugely, hugely significant. And we don't know how much damage we do to others. Like we said before, we don't know how much damage we do to others just by the things we say, just by the judgments we have. There could be so many situations, or at least there's so many situations that I've seen where something happens and somebody decides to create this assumption about a specific person of what might have happened, right? AKA rumors. All because of a judgment. They decided to open their mouth and come up with something that completely has no basis, right? And they say this judgment out loud, and now everybody they're saying it to goes, oh. Next thing you know, they start spreading the rumor like wildfire. A couple months down the line goes, next thing you know, all of you are wrong, and all of you have completely misjudged this person. And the thing is, it's like, cool, man, we can talk about like the benefits of it has in society as a whole if we were just less judgmental, or if we spoke out, or if we controlled our judgment. Yeah, but how about this for change? How about not waking up on the day of judgment and finding that judgment being held against you? You decided to spread a rumor about someone that was completely false. All for the sake of what? Because you wanted to look cool in front of others? Because you wanted to fit in? All for the sake of what? Because we just all love Cheese-Made and it's exciting to everyone? I'd rather that not be held against me on the day of judgment. Forget that. Have control over your judgments. In that moment, when you think something is so juicy and it's just so fresh on your mind and you want to tell somebody, go back to holding your tongue. Keep it together, because it's only going to cause harm in the long run.
And it makes sense Islamically that if you misjudge someone and you spread a false rumor, there are some repercussions, right? Don't you get lashed or something like that?
Capital punishments are not fresh on my mind right now. I'd have to look through it.
But there are going to be some repercussions. You have to have about 3 witnesses.
In an Islamic state, yeah, there is definitely...
But what I'm trying to say is that there are repercussions
every time
to your misjudgments, which forces you, if that's in play, which forces you to not make that judgment as much as you want to hear the person, to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And speaking from the person that's a little cynical, right? Giving people the benefit of the doubt is kind of tough at times. But from time to time, you do get surprised. From time to time, you do have people to prove you wrong, right? You have people that proving you wrong, and it's great because it restores some sort of faith in humanity that a cynical person lacks, that your average person lacks. Because the second you start, because there are some things there's two extremes. One, you're too cynical. The other one, you're too naive. If you trust people constantly, hey, everyone, here's some random person. Here's $50,000. You're going to give it to me tomorrow.
Here's an M3.
Yeah, right. Here's a Corvette. Here's everything, man. Yeah, exactly. But just that has its repercussions as well. But I guess moving on is going to be, you got actions and then you got some reactions.
Yeah, having control over your actions and reactions is, heavily, dependent on those first 5 that we talked about. But just in general, to have better control over your actions and reactions, I think is really important for people to start recognizing what their own, oh, actually, you know what? Before we get into that, whatever that was, when it comes down to controlling your actions and reactions, because everything in life is a transaction. I say hello, you say hello back. I say thank you, you say you're welcome. You know what I'm saying? Everything's an action and reaction. Everything's a transaction. Dropping bars here. When it comes down to having better control over your actions or reactions, what you have to get better at is recognizing situations. You have to recognize when your ego is being stimulated. You have to recognize what your typical triggers are. You have to recognize what your emotions are in that moment. You have to recognize what your thoughts are in that moment. You have to recognize what your judgments are in that moment. The moment you start getting better at recognizing those situations, then you'll be able to improve and have better control over your actions and your reactions. And once again, it's kind of easy for us to, get blinded by seeing red when we're in the heat of the moment. And I'm telling you right now, if this is something that you actually start implementing and practicing because you want to get better at having more control, the first time is not going to work. Maybe the third time it works. The fourth time you go, you know what? I remember the first couple times I freaked out. I'm getting a similar feeling right now. So now you're starting to recognize, let me control myself. And then guess what? You'll be able to control yourself for a while, but maybe that 10th time you have another, reaction that's not so, it's a little bit out of control. And it's very natural. As human beings, that's how we are. Our cups fill up. Sometimes our cups spill over. It's very, very difficult for that internal cup within us to just have a bottomless pit where we're just able to take and take and take and take and not have an outburst and not overflow a little bit. It is very natural. But if you can take a step back from a situation where you had an inappropriate outburst, where you lost control, if you just have the courage to take a step back, recognize what happened from the beginning, what occurred that triggered you and what your reaction was, and you play that back in your head and you learn from it, the next time a similar situation comes up, you will develop better control and you will know how to have a more appropriate reaction.
It's like in that heat of the moment, right after you have like an outburst or you say what you want to say, you feel that regret.
Yeah, going back to regret.
It's instant.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost instant, where it doesn't take a week. It doesn't take whatever it is. It's like a couple minutes after that altercation, maybe like a couple hours or whatever it is. You start thinking about everything and you're like, dang, dude, I went down to that person's level.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't show the best of my ability. And it's tough because at the heat of the moment, you want to speak your mind. You want to be a man. How dare they attack you? How dare they offend you? You want to then try to justify it by possibly defending other people. But to play, I guess, devil's advocate
Isn't it more mature if you had control over yourself?
Yes. But when is, I'm trying to properly word it, but I think I'm just going to say it. It might sound kind of weird, but when is enough? Like that person that is that's wilding out, that's going crazy, speaking all this weird stuff, right? That's making you bad. You're disrespecting your friend group. You're disrespecting he's disrespecting your friend group. He's disrespecting you and everyone else. He's disrespecting himself. He doesn't even know. Making a fool out of himself. Where's that line? And when is it then okay for a person to then speak up? So that's a question that I don't know really the answer to. And it's very situational, but there has to be some sort of line. Like bringing up the whole example of what you were there, what we both experienced. We were over at our friend's apartment.
This was just a couple days ago.
And he lives with a roommate, and we were shooting a podcast, and everything was going really well. We're having a good time, and the guy comes in, opens the door obnoxiously loud, closes it, makes the whole room just shake, walks with heavy footsteps, goes to his room, shuts the door, opens the restroom, moves around the curtains.
All while we're recording.
Okay, seconds later to open the bathroom door and close it to exit and leave, to leave, and then enter his room, where prior to us recording, this guy would be like a ninja. He would open, you'd never even, if you were to actually not see the guy walk, you wouldn't even notice the guy was there. Out of nowhere, we're done, and we start chatting it up. This man, out of nowhere, just opens the door with the most aggression, starts yelling at everyone. Hey man, the guest bathroom is in the other person's room. Don't be using this restroom. This is my restroom. I told the other person so many times, blah, blah, blah. You gotta making it filthy. And then guess what? At the end of it all, he wraps it up with respectfully. Now imagine being super disrespectful, but then thinking it's okay, be like, hold up, let me throw respectfully in there, and that'll make it all happen. Like, all right, just screw you, screw your family, whatever it is, respectfully. All right, cool, dude, I'm good.
It's like saying no homo.
Yeah, right? That's how you get canceled too. But I was staying quiet the whole time. Now, the guy kept on going on. It's not like he had an outburst and then he paused and he went to his room or he exited or whatever it was. We were all staying quiet and we were all being respectful because this is the other person's apartment as well. So as we're staying quiet, the guy kept on going on and on and on. And the more he said, the more disrespectful he was getting towards us, but then also towards our friend. He called him a whole bunch of names in front of everyone. It wasn't just one-to-one. And, you're trying to embarrass the guy in front of his boys to attack him like that. Well, I had enough personally. I stood up and I spoke out, and the guy didn't like it, but I had to, in a way, I felt like that line was already crossed, and someone has to put this person in their spot. And for whatever reason, it had to be me, because I guess thinking back at it, whether this is an excuse or not, I'm still very protective over people I care about, over my friends, over my family. And whenever I sense any sort of bullying, I act up. I wait depending on the severity of the bullying. But if it's continuous and it's continually getting worse and worse, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to say something. Because if you're going to be able to speak bad upon that guy in front of all of his friends, and someone I care about, for me just to sit down with my tail between my legs and just be like, when is this going to end? I mean, for whatever reason, I can't do that. I can't. So I let the person know. But then after that, once I was in the car, immediately once I got to the car, nothing really happened. The guy just ended up talking, blah, blah, blah. We all ended up leaving. Everything was, whatever. Once the second I got in my car, I felt that instant regret. Like, wow, I asked myself, was it worth it? And the immediate answer was no, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth my time. It wasn't really worth me trying to defend the person's honor or whatever it is, because it was at that moment, but at the end of the day, the other person wasn't really paying attention. The other person wasn't really caring because they were so victimized and they were so set on their ways that there wasn't any sort of communication with them. It wasn't really getting anywhere. But I guess, actions and reactions, you have to control it, because if it controls you, that reaction is going to be horrible. That reaction is going to completely take control of your life, and it's going to put you in bad situations. So even if a person's being petty, they're being impulsive, they're acting out of spite, these are all emotions that when our ego is affected, when we're getting emotional, we're not thinking logically. This is what we kind of tend to step back, or trying to, not even step back, but go towards being petty, being impulsive, acting out of spite, because now I'm trying to get you. How dare you affect me? How dare you offend me? Now I'm going to let you have it, buddy. But really, is that the best is that the best thing to do at that moment?
Yeah, you did bring up kind of like a good other side of the situation where genuinely, if there is a situation of, aggression where it's, bullying, or even if it got physical, you definitely, there is like a degree in which a person should step in. There is a degree in which a person should wish better for the situation and, try to mediate the situation, right? The situation that happened to us a couple days ago, it could have just been handled better. That's all it was. And we definitely, as the bigger people in that room at that time, we should have handled the situation in a much more mature manner and not allow ourselves. And this is kind of one of the things that helps a person develop that control as well, is thinking of yourself as a higher status, right? Thinking better of yourself, because it's not in an arrogant sense that you're better than people, but it's in a sense of, hey, I will not disgrace myself. I will not lose respect for myself by playing into this person's game, So with that whole situation, yeah, we could have just handled it better. But at the end of the day, like you said, it didn't get violent or anything. So we, for the most part, we're fine. It wasn't that big of a deal. But another couple things, like you mentioned, those are some really, really important characteristics when it comes down to a person being able to develop better control. Learning how to avoid being petty, learning how to avoid being impulsive, and learning how to not do things out of spite. And it actually, so the pettiness, that one is just childish, right? When you want to purposely piss someone off or purposely get back at someone just because you want to be petty, honestly, grow up. You're literally being a child about the situation. And once again, you don't know how you might hurt someone. And then even worse, so what are you going to achieve by being petty? Do you think the other person is going to be like, oh, wow, they're being petty, I should mature up? No, they're going to respond back with even more pettiness. It's going to become a competition of who can be more petty, right? So that's the first one to avoid, definitely. Avoid being impulsive. This one, I know I have trouble with because sometimes my jokes can get a little wild, but avoid being impulsive. Once again, recognize when you're about to do or say something and it's right at the tip of your tongue and you're just about to do it, just about to say it. Just have that conversation with yourself. Hey, what does this achieve? Is this the right way to go about doing this? Have that control. Don't be so impulsive. Don't be like, oh, this is who I naturally am and this is just how I'm going to do things. No, bro, assess the situation, read the room, understand what is the best course of action in order that the situation is mediated properly. And avoid being spiteful, because if we said pettiness is childish, being spiteful is disgusting. Being spiteful is so immature. And there are so many people where for some reason, whenever I think of the word spite, for some reason, the only example that I can think of, and this is thanks to random street interviews that people will do on social media and whatnot, where they'll just be like, oh, it's I cheated on my significant other because they did XYZ, so I did it out of spite. It's like, holy smokes. You really lack that much self-respect that you went out of your way and completely became disloyal to the situation you had out of spite. That's disgusting. That's beyond childish. That is immature beyond reason. I'm telling you, that is just straight up disgusting. So to recap on that, when it comes down to developing a better sense of control, learn to recognize the situation, avoid being petty, avoid being impulsive, and avoid doing things out of spite. And to recap the entire conversation, to bring it back to, once again, the series that we're talking about, what makes a man with good self-control is a man who is respected by those around. A man who has strong sense of control is a man who is qualified to be a father, is a man who is qualified to be a leader. And when you're able to have a strong sense of control, you're able to control the trajectory of all of those around you in order that you're all moving in a good direction. What are your last thoughts?
Check
Thank
yourself.
you so much for tuning. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
That's pretty much it, dude. What else can you finish off with that other than that? Cool. Awesome. And with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the King of Average podcast. It's your boy BB along with
Malik.
and we appreciate you so much for tuning in. Peace.
Peace.